Hi Taurus, welcome to your August 2018 tarot reading. We have a Celtic cross spread in front of us. That's normally 10 cards, but you got an extra card in the position of the main situation, the near future, and the outcome position. You got a lot of major arcana cards that came out as well, so this could be a big month for you guys. So let's just start going through the messages one by one, cover everything. In the main situation position, we have the Wheel of Fortune and the Seven of Wands. So these two cards together, first the Wheel of Fortune card, that's actually a card that represents Jupiter, and Jupiter is actually in your 7th house right now. That's Scorpio, and it just started to move direct recently, so that could be talking about that. And the Seven of Wands energy is talking about standing up for yourself and your beliefs. So maybe if you were having relationship issues while Jupiter was actually moving backwards in your 7th house, now that it's moving forward, it's saying it's time for you to stand up for yourself and try to resolve these conflicts if you were having any. Could just be saying that while it was in retrograde motion, you might have been having a lot of conflicts too, so that could be what it's pointing to. But given that it's in the upright, to me that's speaking to its forward motion. And this is in the upright as well, so to me this is talking about now, with it moving forward again in your 7th house, this would be the time to take action if there's some kind of conflict you need to resolve and stand up for yourself in some way. Alright, and then in the challenge position, challenge or obstacle, we had the 8 of Swords in reverse. So to me what that could be saying is that you're reluctant to take action. There's something that you're trying not to see. Now that would be in the upright, that would be the message, but the fact that it's in the challenge or obstacle position, that's what makes me feel that it could be saying that that's where you're at right now mentally, that there's still something you've been reluctant to see, and now the timing is just bringing it to where it's just being brought to light whether you're ready for it or not. There's some other cards that point to that lead me to say that, but most likely that's what this message is referring to, saying that the challenge is for you to stop staying in this position and refusing to see something. With it in reverse, it's saying now it's time for you to actually open up your eyes if there's something that you've been willfully trying not to pay attention to. In the foundation position, we have the Temperance card. So this is actually the Major Arcana card for Sagittarius. So for some of you, this could be saying that you've been dealing with a Sagittarius. That's a possibility. Again, like I said, with the ruler of Sagittarius being Jupiter and that being in your 7th house, this could just be pointing, along with the Wheel of Fortune, to it being related to relationship issues, and perhaps you're trying to restore balance either with a specific relationship or even just balance to that area of your life, right? Maybe you've been struggling to get a relationship that you're happy with and you're trying to work on getting that repaired. Sagittarius is also your 8th house, so if this isn't referring to the ruler of Sagittarius being in your 7th house right now, this could just be saying that this is 8th house matters. Maybe there's some kind of inheritance that you were owed, or some kind of back pay with a job, or some kind of law settlement that you were supposed to get money for, but you haven't yet. So maybe that's saying that this would be you standing up for yourself. With the Wheel of Fortune there to support that, most likely it would work out in your favor. Something to keep in mind there. In the past position, we have the Three of Pentacles. So this could be saying that you were just working on building something stable in the past. This is actually a Capricorn card, and I see this as the mixture of Saturn with Venus, but in a good way, as far as you're actually building something stable that you'd be happy with. So if it were a relationship, again, maybe you were building it in the past and you run into some issues with Jupiter going backwards in your 7th house. You've had Mars going retrograde in your 10th house, which is a house of status, which could also be related to relationships too. So that might have been contributing to some issues there as well. I'm recording this on the 21st of July, and there's actually going to be a full moon coming up in a few days in your 10th house in Aquarius. With Mars going retrograde, it's going to be right around those same degrees, and the South Node will be there as well. So that could be saying that that's going to really create that last push to let something go in that area of your life if you are meant to. So, if it's a healthy relationship that you're in, you're totally happy with your relationship, don't freak out and think it's talking about that. This to me is more something that it's a karmic relationship you've been in where now all these major arcana cards on the table are saying it's just time for you to let it go. It could just be that now that eclipse and then some other energies coming into play are going to be what finally help you actually let it go, if that's what you're meant to do. You have the Ten of Wands at the bottom of the deck, which could say you've been feeling burdened, feeling like you've been putting in a lot of work and not necessarily seeing the results. So that's another angle. In the present position, we have the Knight of Wands. So this is a third card that at least in some way ties into Sagittarius energy. So it's possible you've been dealing with a Sagittarius. That's another way that having the ruler of Sagittarius in your 7th house could play out as well. It could be saying that you've had more Sagittarius people come into your life, especially for those of you in the early degrees of Taurus where maybe Uranus came through. And to me, some people overplay what that transit's going to mean for you guys. It's really more about living your more authentic life that you've wanted to live. So, you guys are big fans of stability, generally speaking, for your sign. But if there's a part of you that wanted freedom maybe from a bad relationship, or you've just wanted to put yourself out there more and have a little more fun, maybe you've been in that energy lately, and that naturally could draw more Sagittarius people towards you. And then combine that with their ruler being in retrograde in their 12th house, they might have been a little bit more low-key than normal, so your energies might have just mixed in together for a time. And now, with their ruler going back direct, maybe that could lead to you realizing, well, maybe this isn't exactly the best match for me. Maybe you're realizing that you still do want something a little more stable, which is what you've been working on, and you're trying to stand up for that. Whereas the Sagittarian energy could be a little harder to pin down. It's not to say they can't commit, obviously, but maybe not at the speed a Taurus would want. All right, and then in the near future position, we have two major arcana cards here. We have the Devil, and we have the Hangman. So the Devil is actually my card for Capricorn, and then the Hangman is one of my Pisces cards. So you could be dealing with those people. Those could be placements in your chart, certainly. You might have Mars there, for example, let's say, or maybe your Venus is in Pisces. That's possible. But more likely what I'm seeing again is that, and I think you had this card in your environment position last month too, but I'm thinking this is again pointing to a karmic relationship that you've needed to let go, and you've been reluctant to do so. With Jupiter going backwards in your 7th house, that might have made it hard to let go as well. And now that it's moving direct again, even though you've been in this Hangman position for a while, which would certainly seem to go with talking about the 8 of Swords in reverse in the challenge position, saying that the time for you to think it over is about up, and you need to take some kind of action here. And, the Devil card, I mean, if you look at it, there's certainly some similarities there to the Lover's card, right? Which is often seen as a more positive relationship. But with those similarities, that could be speaking how the connection could be. It's a relationship you get into. Maybe it was very passionate in the beginning and felt like the right thing for you at the time, but now as time goes along, you might start to realize, okay, maybe this actually isn't the most healthy relationship for me. Maybe it's a little more toxic than I wanted to admit, but it's saying that that bond could be hard to break too with those chains there, so that's something to keep in mind. But there is some cards in the spread that lead me to think that if that is where you're coming from at this point, you will have some help from the universe to let that relationship go, if that's really the way you want to go about it. And like I said, again, to point out, if you guys are in a healthy relationship, you're happy, I don't see this as speaking to that dynamic. So again, please don't freak out and think that I'm saying, oh, your relationship's going to crumble if you're in a happy relationship. I feel like a lot of astrologers have kind of been pushing that on Taurus as well, saying that with Uranus, a lot of relationships will break up. And again, like I said, Uranus is really more about authenticity. So, to me, you're more at risk with a hard Neptune transit of breaking up a relationship that was good for you or getting into a bad one. Uranus would be more about if it's a relationship you've wanted to get out of anyway and just, maybe you stuck in your Taurian ways of wanting this stability or putting up with things you shouldn't have necessarily, and now you're just at the point where you're ready to let it go. That would be more likely with a Uranus type transit like that, as opposed to a perfect relationship that actually is healthy for you. You're both very happy, and then it just crumbles. So I wouldn't worry about that particular scenario. All right, in the position of your influence on the situation, we have the High Priestess. So this is actually another card that usually points to Pisces energy for me. But what I'm seeing more likely here is that this is saying, again, pointing to the Eight of Swords in reverse in the challenge, and then your Hangman card in the near future. This could be saying that you're at a point now, or you will be soon, where you can trust your intuition. Having the moon there in front of her, and it looks like she has her foot on it. To me, that's saying you have a firm grasp on your emotions, but you're also very aware of them. They're right there in front of you, out in the open. So it's a good combination to have, where you're in touch with your emotions and your intuition, but you're also very controlled and not letting them take hold of you, per se. So this could be where you're at now. And that would also point to, if you've been thinking things over and deep down your intuition is telling you, yes, this isn't the right connection for me, that's saying you should be able to trust that feeling. All right. In the position of the environment, we actually have the Hermit. So this is actually a Virgo card, the major arcana card for Virgo. And right now, Venus is traveling through Virgo, which is your fifth house. So that could be saying maybe it's a new connection that's coming along that's helping you see even more that, maybe this karmic relationship I'm in isn't the right one for me. That's a possibility, especially now that Jupiter is moving direct again in your sign. That could help you find a healthier relationship. This could also be saying, if you look at how he's shedding that light, pointing it towards, he's looking right towards the devil and the hangman. It could just be saying that this is the environment position where the hermit card is. So it could just be saying that your friends might help shed some light. Maybe they see something or hear something about the person that you're dealing with that'll be the last straw where you're like, okay, I have to get out of this. Or, like I said, could be someone else that comes along. Mercury's going to be retrograde, so maybe someone from your past comes back. That's a possibility. Or you reconnect with someone from the past. There's a whole bunch of different ways it could go. But these two cards here, the sun will be in Virgo towards the end of the month as well. And there will be a full moon in Pisces, so maybe that's pointing to something there. It might come to light towards the end of the month that'll really help you make that move. In the environment position, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So this is this is the hopes or fears position. So what this could be saying is that you're hoping for something more stable, certainly, right? That's one way of looking at it. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come to fruition. It's just in a hopes position, but that would lean to, let's say you were dealing with a Sagittarius, and in the beginning it seemed like a really good connection, and now you're realizing, well, maybe this wouldn't give me the stability that I'm hoping for, so you're just at the point where you want to start something new. And it doesn't even have to be a Sagittarius or a fire sign at all. Having the ruler of Sagittarius in your seventh house could just bring people with that type of energy around, very open and outgoing, extroverted type energy. And those people can be hard to pin down. It's not that they can't be loyal when they are committed, but they usually just have so many interests in life that it could be hard to for them to commit in the beginning. So that could be the more likely thing going on there. And like I said, it could even be you, that maybe you were feeling that way when Uranus first came to your sign. You were feeling very electrified and outgoing for a bit, and now you're coming back down a little bit and seeking that stability again. All right, and then in the outcome position, we had two more major arcana cards again. So, like I said, you guys had a ton of major arcana this month, which to me usually points to fated events that were just overdue in some way. But, well, let's look at the moon first, actually. The moon, like I think I mentioned before, I'm recording this on the 21st of July. And then there's actually going to be a full moon lunar eclipse in Aquarius in a few days, and that's actually going to be the longest lunar eclipse in over a century, I believe, and it's actually going to be in your 10th house, sitting there with Mars retrograde and with the South Node. So to me, that's pointing to saying that something that maybe you've needed to take action on for a long time, this would be the time when it might happen. Whether you directly take the action or some action is taken on your behalf to remove this dynamic from your life. That's the most likely dynamic I'm seeing there. And then with the Magician alongside that, that could just be pointing to saying that you have the ability to manifest this. So if you really do want to let go, you have the ability to do so. You have the resources at your disposal to do it, whether it's willpower or coming across the right information you needed to finally make that final decision. A few different ways that could go. I also see this as my South Node card, so combining that with the moon, to me that's pointing to something big happening during that eclipse that either gets you into this position where you finally see something and it's kind of forcing you out of that Eight of Swords energy, and you're still trying to think it over because, like we said, that can be a strong connection. The devil connection, even though it's unhealthy, I mean, I think everyone's been there at some point, right? Where you've had a less than healthy relationship, but it's been hard to let it go nonetheless. So maybe something comes into play around that time that gives you that push to really move forward with letting it go. And then it might just take most of the month to play out. And maybe that's what the Pisces and Virgo energy is pointing to as well. That it's saying maybe until that full moon in Pisces when the sun is in Virgo, you might not be ready to fully let it go, but maybe by that time you'll finally make that move. All right. Some people say this is a Sagittarius card too. I don't really see that personally, but I will mention it since a lot of other readers see it that way. To me, that's more of the South Node energy. And South Node energy can sometimes be seen as a bit of Jupiterian type energy because it's things you come into this life with already, so it'll feel like that abundant energy. But yeah, I did have to mention that. For some people, they see this as Sagittarius too, so if you're dealing with Sagittarius, there's plenty of energy that points to that in this reading. All right, and let's take a look at the Oracle card. So it's Chaos and Conflict. Take a look at the artwork. And it's number 33, if that number has any significance for you. Let's take a look at what the message is in the book. All right, it says essential meanings. Disarray, being at cross purposes with another, the tension of opposites, the value of chaos before order. So, to me, what stands out there, the tension of opposites, like I was saying, generally speaking, you could have lots of other things in your chart that would make you a lot more freedom loving, but like I said, Taurus energy as a whole tends to love stability, something that they can trust and rely on. And then Sagittarius, to them, that energy could seem a lot more scattered. They're immutable energy, whereas Taurus is fixed energy. and they're fire, whereas you're earth. So they might seem like a bit much for you. Like I said, they love to travel a lot. They have a lot of connections. They tend to take on a lot of different things at once, not necessarily just relationships, but they'll usually just have such an enjoyment of life that that's what makes it hard for them to settle down sometimes. And maybe, like I said, with their ruler being in retrograde, they might have felt a little more slowed down than normal. And then with Uranus coming into your sign, initially you might have felt a big burst of wanting to be more outgoing and freedom loving. So those two energies, just the timing might have been right at the moment. And now with Jupiter going back direct, they might be feeling more like themselves again, and you might be settling back into your energy as well, which would make the differences between you guys stand out a bit more to where you might say, okay, you know what? Seemed like a good relationship at first, but maybe it's not the best thing for me. And if that's the case, it does say you will be thinking things over. So, and it looks like I said, with all the major arcana on the table, one way or another, looks like there's a lot of energy here that's saying that something's going to shift. I think last month your message was pathways clearing, so it's probably just a continuation of that energy. These last eclipses in Aquarius and Leo, this is about the end of those eclipses in those signs, so the fixed signs will be freed from that eclipse energy as the nodes start to move on to Cancer and Capricorn. So this could just be saying that's that last push, that the last things that you were meant to take on and get on the right path. This might be the last push coming up in this month here. All right, it says the Oracle's message: opposing forces come together to create a turbulent atmosphere, but consider the value of chaos that serves you well as you become unmoored by it. Scattered to the winds, you leave behind the parts of yourself you no longer need and disperse seeds to reinvent yourself anew. Although the conflict appears to exist externally, its essence is also internal, projected outward and causing disarray. You may find yourself at cross purposes with someone else, facing a storm you feel you can't control. Yet every storm passes and chaos leads to a reordering of things. Conflict provides a way to see more than one side of a situation. Look upon this as just a moment in time when you may need to take shelter and step away from the fray. Don't be too eager to fight. This is a time to understand rather than to be understood. So maybe that's what this is saying as well. It might seem like a conflicting message to an extent, where this is saying the Seven of Wands is encouraging you to stand up for yourself. But there is also a lot of introspective energy here too, the Hangman, the High Priestess. So it could be saying that I'm of the belief, just, taking this in as a whole, including that message, that I feel that if there really is something you would know deep down, whether it's right for you or not, it'll be just a matter of if you want to face that. And I feel like if you're still struggling to face that, it seems like things are going to come into play this month that'll really make it to where you can't avoid it anymore. And once again, like I said, if you're in a healthy relationship, that relationship should be totally fine. So you need to really just be honest with yourself in that regard and know which boat you fit in. If this is truly a healthy relationship, or if you're wanting to believe it is, when really, deep down, this is the type of connection that it is. All right. Relationship message. Stubbornness is keeping you in a state of opposition. The incessant need to be right will only serve to prolong the conflict that deep down you want to be resolved. This is an opportune moment to learn about your values, your sense of self, what's really important to you. Some things are non-negotiable. If that's true, it's not necessary to fight. Can you find a way through the stormy emotions to higher ground? Soon the air will clear, and you will be in a much better place than before, for the storm will have passed, blazing a path for new growth in its wake. Things can become electric and enlightened, always better than before if you use this time constructively. So again, like I said, the time I'm recording this, it's before that full moon eclipse that's going to happen towards the end of July in Aquarius, but that's going to be squaring Uranus in your sign too. And like I said, Uranus to me isn't about, oh, I have the perfect relationship, but I'm just going to throw it away. Quite frankly, that would be more of a Neptune type energy to me than a Uranus energy. Uranus is more of what you know you want deep down, what you really want for yourself. So if it's already a healthy relationship, you wouldn't throw it away. But if it is something that you know hasn't been right for you and you've just been settled in the stability of it, you know, which, like I said, Taurus can be known for that sometimes. They just love that stability. But so maybe you've been settling for some things that you shouldn't have been putting up with, and that eclipse being the way it is, squaring Uranus in your sign, to really give you that last push to liberate yourself from that type of connection, only if it's an unhealthy one. And then you'll have a new moon solar eclipse happening in Leo on August 11th, which is your fourth house, and that'll be squaring Jupiter in your seventh house. So that's another energy there that could point to saying, could even be as far as going, if it's someone you've been living with, maybe you move out or they move out, it could be something kind of big there too. So there's a lot of energy on deck this month for things to shift one way or the other. Like I said, if you really feel deep down that it's not the right connection for you, then it might be time to move on that. But if you're really stuck in that hangman energy, even though this looks like you can trust your intuition, maybe by the end of August you'll see what's really going on with the Virgo card there, and then there's going to be a full moon on the Virgo Pisces axis in the end of the month. So maybe that's what that's saying. All right, and for those of you if this resonated more as a financial reading, which I wasn't getting much of a vibe of that there, but we'll read it. It says, circumstances appear to be chaotic, but everything that is happening now is in truth shaking things up so you can find a real path to your prosperity. Yes, it's a stormy time, and it feels as if there are opposing forces wherever you turn. Be reassured that there is divine purpose in this chaos. Everything that doesn't work is being taken from you, so the truest parts of yourself remain. The events occurring now are essential for your ultimate prosperity. The chaos is divinely inspired, even though it doesn't appear that way now. In time, you will notice to be true. So, like I said, I didn't see much financial energy there, but let's say Wheel of Fortune, Temperance, Knight of Wands, maybe this is all pointing to 8th house stuff. So maybe you've been owed money, some kind of inheritance, or, your employer hasn't been paying you what they should have been, something along those lines. Then maybe that's what this push is about as well. Not necessarily to leave the job, but maybe to stand up for yourself. That could be what's going on there. You could be feeling that energy, feeling very burdened, that 10 of Wands, and like you've been putting in a lot of work, but can't even see where it's going to lead you at the end of the day. But yeah, for a lot of you, I just see this as more of a relationship thing. Either way, like I said, if you guys watch some astrology readings for August too, like I said, there's a lot of going on in the fixed signs, with Jupiter now moving direct again, Uranus in your sign. That July eclipse, July 27th, is actually going to be squaring Uranus, and it's going to be in your 10th house. The new moon solar eclipse is going to be in your 4th house. So there's a lot of fixed energy going on. And so I think things are going to shift. But most likely, I don't see anything that's healthy for you being taken away. This looks like things that you were long overdue to get rid of. And maybe you weren't seeing it right away, but now it looks like events are kind of going to come around to where you're going to be forced to see it, and having that manifestation energy in the outcome position, it should all play out in your favor anyway, even if it might not seem like that at first. All right, so we'll wrap up there, and I'll see you all next month.